Hi, so it's been a while since I've made a video, and I decided that I wanted to talk about some things that I didn't expect about Japan and exchange programs, particularly my exchange program. And like any great host, I'm in my pajamas and a scarf because it's freezing. That's probably one of the things I really didn't expect. It's school. There's no central heating. It's only November. It's barely even cold and the school is freezing. It doesn't help that my class opens the windows every single morning to let in fresh air, which I think is unnecessary. But oh well. It's freezing. People bring blankets for their laps. And you're not allowed to wear a scarf during class. You're actually not allowed to wear a scarf at all. Or hats. Or things that keep you warm. But we all do it. We just do it before and after school and with the teachers that don't really care. What else? Probably the most random thing is that it's impossible to find a trash can in Japan. You always carry around your trash. If you say you go to Starbucks and you being the foreigner that you are, you take it out and you drink it while you're walking to the train station or something. And there are trash cans at the train station after the ticket gate, but outside it's impossible to find them. You could walk around for at least an hour without seeing one. On the other hand, there are, what are they called? Those things that give you drinks. Vending machines. There are vending machines everywhere. I forget words lately, sorry about that. There are vending machines everywhere. Like every block, there's a vending machine. They're always there. I don't know how. I bet some of them go a long time without ever being used because you don't need to use them. There's way too many of them. There's an excess of vending machines in Japan, and they all light up really well, and I think they give more change than the ones in the US. Like, they also accept more coins, I think. I might be wrong about that. I don't remember the last time I used a vending machine in the US. What else? About my program. I think before I came to Japan, I was really expecting to have more freedom than I do. And after coming here, I realized that there's this thing in Japan where if you're under 20 years old, which is where you're legally an adult in Japan, you're considered a child by everybody above there. I remember this one moment during orientation where one of the adults, one of the teachers, she was talking to us about how we need to follow rules and how we have to be looked over, and she slipped with her words and she said you need to be controlled, and she backtracked and corrected herself because it sounded a little too serious, honestly a little bit scary. But that's kind of the mindset towards the youth here, that we're children, that we're just really big children. And you can imagine it being different in the United States. A kid comes halfway across the world alone without much help. They're not in contact with their family a lot. You expect to treat them like an adult because they're living as an adult practically. They're not totally dependent on a family. And they're doing a lot alone and they're learning a new language. But here it's different. And there's this thing in my school, I'm not sure if it's just my school, but Japanese teenagers are really, I don't mean to sound insulting, but immature. They can be serious about things, and they can study hard. In that way, they're very, very mature. They start going to school alone from a very young age. You see kids who are 3 years old, not quite 3, let's say 4 or 5. I have trouble guessing Japanese ages too, but 4 or 5 kids that are reaching up to put their tickets in the slots. You have them going to school on the trains by themselves. You would never see that in the United States. Part of it is that it's safer in Japan, but in that way they're a lot more adults. They travel between cities by themselves because the train system in Japan is amazing. But when they're playing with each other, they play like little kids. It's very physical. Their jokes aren't very sophisticated. A lot of the time they're very straightforward. I don't know how to put it into words, but I think that's the general idea of it. It reminds me of when I was little and I would play with my friends, like playing tag or keep away or something like that. It feels exactly like that. So I kind of understand the mentality that people under 20 are kids, but at the same time, you can't group a 16-year-old with a 10-year-old. It's a little bit different. What else was I not expecting? Yeah, I think that's the biggest one, feeling like a child. I've never felt more like a child in my entire life, more taken care of. The lack of freedom. I wish I had more freedom. As an exchange student, going out of the house is something that you have to ask permission for. At least in Japan. I'm not sure about in the US. And even in the US, I mean, you tell your parents where you're going, normally. But considering that a lot of the times you might not have a key to the house, and everybody else is busy, you have to know when somebody's going to be there. Otherwise, you're just going to spend your time around the house waiting for someone to come back. Or, like a lot of us do, we go to Starbucks a lot. I go to Starbucks so much. I think, and I don't know, I miss that freedom of just being able to walk out of the house. It's something I took for granted. What else? Sleeping in. I can't do it, but I also shouldn't do it. Sleeping in the US, I would sleep sometimes past noon. Not unusual for American teenagers, or teenagers in general. But here, I always wake up before 8. The latest I've ever woken up was 9. And that felt pretty late. It might be the time difference, but I rarely can sleep past 7. What else wasn't I expecting? Stereotypes. Everyone told me before I came to Japan that people would love me because I have blonde hair and blue eyes, and people would stare at me and stuff like that. For some reason, I thought maybe that was just a stereotype. And it isn't true for all Japanese people, but I don't mean to sound narcissistic, but people do call foreigners cute. People that wouldn't necessarily be considered pretty being abroad, being in their home country, will be called pretty and cute in Japan because a lot of times Japanese people actually do like a foreigner's face. They like the tall nose, they like the big eyes. And that's not to say everyone does. But there is a lot of imitation in pop culture of that. I thought that people wouldn't be so straightforward. In some ways, they're really roundabout. They won't tell you when you're doing something wrong or when you're being rude. And manners are very, very different. I can talk about that for ages, about how different the manners between Japan and the US are. But they're straightforward in the way that, like, girls will pat my chest when I'm changing for gym class, which would never happen in the US. It goes along with the whole childish thing. They they pat my chest, and I've had a few very, very odd bump-ins with girls that way. A girl said "Ohayo" and then patted me on the chest, and I just said "Ohayo" and walked away. Ohayo, by the way, is informal for "Ohayo gozaimasu," which is good morning. I wasn't expecting that. Not at all. And getting homesick, I didn't expect that either. I think you don't really realize before you leave that one day, a couple months from then, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna think, this isn't my bed, this isn't my house, this isn't my alarm clock, none of it's mine. And I started imagining the day that I would wake up in my own bed with my own things, and I kind of miss that feeling. But at the same time, that thought is so surreal right now. And I think that's all I can talk about for now. It's all that comes to mind. So, thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful in some way or another. Bye.